I love you, Grandma, come again.
As I remembered these words from my granddaughter, I decided to call my son and his wife's house. However, when John answered the phone, I could hear Emily yelling in the background, sounding very upset.
Enough already. Tell her not to come. I don't care about your mom. Just tell her to give us money instead of coming, money.
As a mother-in-law, it's not unusual to feel avoided, but this aggression was certainly not normal. I was terribly confused. The mysteries only deepen, leaving me wondering what exactly is going on.
Save Dad before me.
When rescued, Anna's voice was hoarse, her body still trembling. Yet, she desperately cared for John. It amazed me how such a small body could hold so much courage and love. Calm down, me. I must save Anna and John. I must respond to this call, I told myself as I stood up, encouraged. I'll save them, whatever it takes. After all, the fate of these two dear people is entrusted to me. I am Catherine Smith, aged 64. Currently, I live alone in an apartment. I'm a former single mom. I worked until I was 60 and raised John on my own. Eventually, as he grew up and moved out for school, he became independent. Now, I work part-time 3 days a week, living a comfortable life. The happy news came about 7 years ago. John said he was getting married, and the bride was a beautiful woman, 9 years his junior. John was 30 at the time. Being 9 years younger, the young lady was 21. Her name is Emily. They met through a mutual friend and hit it off immediately.
We grew up just with my mom and sister after our parents split up early, so I really understand how John values his mother.
Emily said with a radiant smile. Of course, I was all for their marriage and wholeheartedly blessed their union.
Actually, Emily is already pregnant.
Being surprised by the shy smiles of the young couple is now a cherished memory. Soon, my adorable granddaughter Anna was born. Their house is a 20-minute drive from mine. When Anna was younger, I often looked after her, and those were days filled with even more joy. I never imagined that such a shocking event would follow. My happy life came to an abrupt end. As soon as Anna started elementary school, all contact ceased. They must be busy. Maybe Emily started a job. I thought, trying to console myself. They say no news is good news, and if they didn't need me, I would be happy for them. Emily's parents lived farther away than I did, so I thought they might rely on me again if needed. Indeed, until last year, I was often called over to babysit Anna.
I love you, Grandma, come again.
I remember Anna always saying that and waving until she couldn't see me anymore. My desire to see her again grew. However, even as a grandmother, I shouldn't meet her without her parents' permission. Besides, if they didn't need help, I should be able to see her during summer or winter breaks. I decided to wait patiently for them to contact me. But when summer actually came, my expectations were dashed. Weeks passed without a visit or even a phone call. Maybe I should just go visit? I thought to myself, and decided to call John in the evening. I intended to check their availability first, since dropping by unannounced would be rude. I plan to visit during a holiday when it's convenient for them. To avoid being a nuisance, I should probably leave after an hour or two. As I listened to the phone ring, I wondered what I should bring as a gift. But the response from John on the phone was unexpected.
Emily says it would be troublesome. She's tired and doesn't want to meet. Sorry, but could you please hold off this year?
I was stunned at first, but slowly I began to understand. Meeting me was a burden for Emily. It's easy to forget, but to her, I'm her mother-in-law. I had thought we were getting along like friends, but maybe Emily had been feeling pressured all along. If she's tired, I could help out with the chores, but maybe my coming over would be more of a nuisance. I ventured cautiously. John moved the phone away from his mouth to say something. Thinking he was probably talking to Emily, I held my breath and waited. Then, in a tone I had never heard before, Emily's annoyed voice faintly reached me.
Enough already. Tell her not to come. I don't care about your mom. Just tell her to send money instead of coming, money.
Although the voice was distant and not entirely clear, that seemed to be the gist. Can you imagine how shocked I was? I was so stunned I couldn't speak. As I was speechless, a very apologetic John's voice came through.
Sorry, I appreciate the sentiment, but she doesn't want you in the house. She just started at jobs, maybe part-time, and it's tiring her out, making her edgy.
I was simply stunned. I hadn't realized I was so disliked. I think I responded with something like, okay, or I see, but I was not sure. Disheartened, I hung up the phone. After hanging up, I regretted not asking to at least talk to Anna. More than wanting to visit, I just wanted to see John and Anna's faces. For Emily, having an outsider like me in her family only home must be stressful. I too remember feeling tense when my mother-in-law used to visit while I was still married to my ex-husband. It's not hard to understand why Emily would be reluctant. If this keeps up, there might come a day when I won't be allowed to see my granddaughter. I reflected deeply on this. At the same time, I realized that indeed Emily had started working. She had married John soon after entering the workforce and became a housewife. Her last job was in an office, I heard. If she's doing a standing job part-time, it might be more tiring. As John said, she might be too physically and mentally exhausted to accept various things. I hurriedly sent John an apology message. Sorry about earlier. Please apologize to Emily for me as well. Having people over can really be a hassle, I understand. I've reflected on it. I just wanted to see Anna's cheerful face, so maybe you could send a picture sometime. If you can make it back during the summer break, please let me know then. With a prayerful heart, I waited for a reply. Surprisingly, the phone rang sooner than I expected. It was John's number, so I answered quickly. But to my surprise, it wasn't John who started talking, but Emily.
Hello? Thank you. I appreciate your concern.
Her voice was weak, a stark contrast to the strong yelling I had overheard earlier. It sounded like she was truly exhausted. For a moment, I wasn't sure whom to believe, but either way, it wouldn't change what I needed to do. Whether her true feelings were one way or another, the fact that she was trying to get along with me was something I should appreciate. Thinking this, I made an effort to sound cheerful. "It's been a while, Emily. I heard you started working. You must be working hard. It's tough, isn't it? Sorry for saying I'd drop by during such times." Then, Emily exaggeratedly moaned a big hum. I could even hear her sniffing. If she was truly crying, that would be quite emotionally unstable.
Yes, I'm really exhausted. It's the latter half of the summer break, but I'm sorry, this time is not good either.
Emily sounded very sad. I began to worry that maybe her emotions were indeed in disarray. Concern was starting to outweigh my doubts. Hormonal imbalance, stress, and other possible causes of her condition crossed my mind. I'd much rather she just disliked her mother-in-law. Of course, it's okay. I'm sorry for pushing. It's totally fine. But more importantly, are you okay, Emily? Are you getting enough rest? I spoke gently, taking great care not to upset her. Emily was silent for a while. I waited anxiously for her response for several seconds. Finally, a slightly happier-sounding voice came from the other end of the phone.
I'm fine. So,
Bye.
After a brief farewell, the call ended. I involuntarily sighed. The atmosphere wasn't right to ask to see my granddaughter. Emily's condition worried me, but John's yes-man behavior was also concerning. I wondered if this was just how young couples are these days, but no clear answers came. With a lingering sense of unease, I resigned myself to the situation. About 30 minutes after the call, I received a message from John. It reads, "Can we meet during tomorrow's lunch break?" Since I was off the next day, I quickly replied, "Okay." The following day, we decided to meet for lunch at a diner near John's workplace. John looked tired when I saw him. His words lacked energy.
Lately, Emily has been acting strange. She goes out every night, comes back drunk, and then is bedridden with a hangover. She could ask you or her parents to take care of Anna, but she refuses. Honestly, it's troubling.
John then took a key out of his pocket and handed it to me. It seemed to be the spare key to their house.
Just in case I can't get up because of illness or something, can I call you?
I accepted the key, trying to suppress my anxiety. John asking for such a favor was not a good sign. Even after getting home, I was too worried to sit still. After 3 days of agonizing, I sent John a message. I wanted to talk directly again to hear more about his concerns. "Can you talk now?" He should be at home at this time. Normally, I would get some kind of message back right away. But no matter how long I waited, there was no reply. By midnight, I even started thinking about visiting their house. But finally, a reply came.
Busy. Can't for a while.
The message was curt. My unease did not subside. The next day, I called John's workplace, wondering if I was overreacting. But then I learned something alarming. John had been ill and hadn't come to work for the past 2 days. Indeed, he looked pale when we met 4 days ago. If he had fallen ill after that, it wasn't inconceivable. But then, would he really reply busy instead of sick to my message? Beyond a mere gut feeling, emergency alarms are blaring in my head. I rushed to John and Emily's house. No one answered when I rang the doorbell. When I entered with the spare key, I found several heavy stones piled up in the kitchen. They were shaped like curling stones and weighed about 22 pounds each. Why here? I wondered. Then I heard a noise. Looking around, I saw Anna outside on the balcony. I hurried to open the window and was shocked. Anna was chained up, wasn't she? The robust metal chain was thin but sturdy, not easily removed. It was cold outside. I quickly took off my coat and wrapped Anna in it. She was shivering, perhaps from the cold. But when she looked up at me, she cried out,
"Save Daddy first."
confused about what it meant. I hugged Anna as I listened for more of her story.
Mommy locked Daddy under the kitchen floor. He's under those heavy round things. Please, hurry and help.
Breathless at this unimaginable revelation. Following Anna's plea, I moved the weights aside and found a trapdoor to the underfloor storage. Cautiously opening it, I found John lying at the bottom of a dark, cramped storage space. I screamed, "John!" No response. I reached out desperately. His body was warm. He was alive. I tried desperately to pull him out, but John, unconscious, was too heavy, making it impossible to lift him. I started to panic. Just then, I heard a car. I caught my breath sharply. I thought it would be bad if Emily came back and saw this situation. If it was just Emily, maybe it'd be better, but if she had a man with her, I would stand no chance. I rushed to the front door and secured the chain. It turned out not to be Emily, as there was no sign of anyone. Instead, moving around helped clear my head. I told myself, calm down, me. I must save Anna and John." I pulled out my phone and dialed 911 in a frenzy. Later, I realized that calling an ambulance could have been an option, but at that moment, I was not in a state to think about it. All I could focus on was getting help. My son is unresponsive under the floor, and my granddaughter is chained up, unable to free herself. She says her mom did this, and my son's wife is not home. Please help now. I explained the situation and location as requested. The operator's voice was tense. They promised to come quickly, and I repeatedly pleaded for haste. I wasn't sure how long Emily had been gone or where she might be. When I asked Anna, all she could do was cry and say, "I don't know." Anna and I managed to pull the chain to its limits and somehow got back inside. I wrapped Anna in a blanket. I tore off the bed and held her tight. "It's okay. Your grandma will definitely save you. I will protect you." I returned to my unconscious son. His lips were dry, which concerned me, but there was no way to give him a drink right now. He was breathing. I couldn't understand why he wouldn't open his eyes. I was desperately praying for the police or paramedics to arrive quickly when suddenly I heard rattling at the front door. Startled, I jumped up. Though I hadn't noticed any car sound, Emily had returned. It seems I hadn't heard her because I was absorbed in my actions. Trembling, I returned to Anna and hugged her tightly. Anna was crying more than I was, clearly terrified. She seemed to be struggling to keep quiet, a sure sign of her fear.
What the hell is this?
Emily shouted as she tried several times to force the door open with great force. It sounded as if she were kicking the door. Perhaps she saw my shoes through the small gap the chain allowed and yelled even louder.
Are you kidding me, old woman? Did you have a key? I'll smash you too.
Emily banged on the door repeatedly. The chain looked like it might break, and pale-faced, I was prepared to fight. I quietly moved away from Anna, heading to the kitchen. Looking for something to use as a weapon, I found a frying pan. Thinking I had to protect Anna at all costs, I approached the front door, ready to defend us. Just then, I heard the sound of a police car approaching from a distance. The sound grew closer and closer. They must have been coming because of my call. Emily stopped rattling the door and stood still. I raised my voice. Here, we're here, the ones who called. Help us. Then, Emily let go of the doorknob and hurried away. As I was slumping down, the doorbell rang. I screamed softly, but then I heard a male voice from outside.
Excuse me, are you okay? We're from the Central Police Station. Did you call us?
Crying, I stumbled to the door, unlocked the chain, and let them in. The police quickly assessed the situation and called for paramedics. While waiting for the ambulance, they briefly questioned me about what had happened. Soon, Anna and John were safely extracted and taken for emergency medical care. I accompanied them to the hospital. Even at the hospital, I couldn't immediately relax. Fortunately, Anna's life was not in danger. She had visibly lost weight and appeared severely malnourished. The tests showed she was slightly dehydrated, but otherwise okay. The memory of her shivering from the cold was still vivid in my mind, and I was deeply relieved she didn't have a fever. It seemed she could recover with proper nutrition. The problem was John. Upon arrival at the hospital, he remained unconscious. No response to tapping or shaking. I continued calling his name until a nurse pulled me away. John, please, wake up.
Daddy,
Anna was sobbing too. I held Anna tightly, continuing to pray for John's safety. While waiting for treatment, I gradually heard more from Anna.
Mom locked up Dad, and when I told her to stop, she got really mad and sent me outside. If I yelled outside, I'd get in even more trouble, so I tried really hard not to cry.
Anna clung to me and shared in a tiny voice, imagining what it must have been like to see her father in such a situation, how terrified she must have been. Yet the courage she showed by speaking up made me feel both happy and strong. It was cold, wasn't it? Scary, wasn't it? Was it then, with that chain? I remembered the chain that had been used to tie Anna. The cold chain against her bare skin. It was truly pitiful. But why was there a chain there at all?
Yes, but even when Dad wasn't around, I was sometimes chained up before. Mom would say I'm in the way, to stop running around, and she'd chain me up. It's been like that since I was much smaller.
I shuddered. If that was the case, Anna might have been chained up even when I used to come over to take care of things, without my knowing. I almost blurted out asking why she had never mentioned it before, but swallowed my words. It was too cruel to blame such a small child. It wasn't easy for her to seek help for something her mother did to her inside the home, especially if it started before she was even 7 years old. She might not have clearly understood how abnormal it was. An adult should have noticed. I should have noticed. With intense regret and renewed anger towards Emily, I felt. What concerned me was how much John knew about it. I decided to ask Anna, "Did Dad know about the chain?" Anna shook her head. No words came out. I held Anna close, patiently waiting. Eventually, Anna, with tears filling her eyes, answered.
Mom said if I told Dad or Grandma, she would get very angry, so I kept it a secret all this time. When Grandma is around, Mom doesn't do anything mean to me. Mom is the kindest when Grandma is there, so I liked Mom then.
Despite all that had happened, Anna had not given up on her mother, Emily. This time, I couldn't hold back and started sobbing loudly. Anna cried along with me. The time it took for John's treatment to finish felt incredibly long. It probably felt longer than it actually was. Later, I learned that John had been pushed into a small space under the floor for about 2 days without food or water. Fortunately, the duct tape was only loosely applied, so it wasn't completely airtight. That meant he had no trouble breathing. Finally, the awaited news arrived. After receiving hydration and other treatments, John finally woke up. I was immensely relieved, and together with Anna, we rushed to John's side. John smiled at seeing Anna, and we rejoiced together over being safe. The next day, John's account made Emily's actions clear. Emily had told John to clean under the floor, and once he was down there, she closed the lid. John tried to get out, but couldn't open the lid.
Mom put a heavy round stone on it and stood on it.
Anna, now recovered, also testified. The police listened solemnly to both of their stories.
Emily's behavior changed significantly after Anna started elementary school, but now that I think about it, there might have been signs before that.
John muttered sadly. His gaze towards the ceiling was vague and anxious. After the police left, we were able to talk more in detail.
There were a few times when Emily went out with friends and came back late. The next day, Anna was unusually quiet. I thought she was just being considerate because her mom looked hungover, but maybe Emily was harsh to her when I wasn't watching back then too.
John sighed. Being much younger than himself, he thought it was just young people's behavior to go out with friends and drink too much. He mentioned that there were no suspicious activities, only meetings with female friends, and he had been shown photos taken together as proof.
I thought it was okay since she was supposed to be taking care of house chores and Anna during the day. It would be a break for her. If only I had paid more attention to Anna's condition.
Saying that, John sadly cast down his eyes. Despite being in danger himself, all he could think about was caring for Anna. He had become such a gentle father, which made me feel a bit proud. That for Emily, that kindness might have been seen as a reason to think she could get away with more selfishness. Thanks to Anna and John getting better, Emily's malice has become even more apparent. I did my best to comfort them, and when they were discharged, I told them to come to my house for a while. I thought there was no need for them to return to a place that had been searched by the police and where they had unpleasant memories. They nodded and thanked me. The police, of course, began searching for Emily on suspicion of arrest and confinement. They started by checking around the house, but she was not found immediately. While I kept an eye on John and Anna, the police asked me about the situation.
First, please tell us about the situation when you found your granddaughter and son. Also, do you have any idea where your daughter-in-law might have gone?
I tried to calm myself with a deep breath. John, still looking exhausted, and Anna, still showing signs of emotional hurt. Filled with an inability to forgive Emily, I needed to remain calm. Emily, where might she go? Well, I'm not sure exactly. Maybe. I shared my lead with the police. I didn't know much about Emily's range of activities, but there was one thing I did know. After finishing with the police, I sent a message following that lead. Let's see, the text should say, Emily has done terrible things to her husband and daughter. She's currently on the run. Luckily, both are safe, but were hospitalized, so the police are involved. If you see Emily, please contact me or the police. Is this okay? My message received many responses, mostly shocked faces and pale character stamps. There was also a strong, got it, dog stamp. Since they're all young women, the responses on the messaging app were lively. But my lead was just this one place. If she had gone to someone I didn't know, there would be nothing I could do. I waited for news with a prayerful heart. The very next day, Emily was arrested. After fleeing, she crashed at one of her friends' homes. Just the outcome I had hoped for. Had our usual conduct been good, I wondered privately with joy.
I just came over to hang out. Let me stay. Had a fight with my husband. Got bullied by my mother-in-law, but John didn't stand up for me.
That's how Emily brazenly spoke, according to her friend. Had I not sent the message beforehand, her friend would have believed her. I'm glad I sent the message. It just so happened to be at a friend's house who also knows me. The recipients of my message about the incident were Emily's close friends. Let me reveal why I knew these people's contacts. Actually, I'm quite good at socializing. At the wedding, I easily approached Emily's friends, young ladies, and exchanged contact information. Without Emily realizing, I became acquainted with her friends. Now, I am quite friendly with several of them on SNS. Whether Emily knew it or not, or even if she did, she probably didn't care. being able to get ahead and spread the word was a key to victory. An alert was quickly circulated among Emily's friends. My story was believed quickly, perhaps because there was a slight belief among them that Emily could do something like this. Neither John nor I had noticed, but it seems Emily originally had a terribly selfish and scary side. Emily was arrested while cursing foully and complaining incessantly. Although I was glad about the swift arrest, it made me a bit disheartened to realize neither parent nor child had a good sense of people. Nevertheless, it was finally over. More than feeling joyful, I was relieved. Months later, during Emily's interrogation, an astonishing fact came to light. It turned out that Anna was not John's daughter. Furthermore, even the identity of the father was unknown. Before marrying John, Emily had led a reckless, flirtatious life. She would party late into the night, enjoying one-night stands. By the time she realized she was pregnant, she had been involved with more men than one could count on one hand. In short, she had multiple partners other than John. The reason she chose John was that he was the highest earner among the men she was seeing.
When I told him I was pregnant with his child, he was so blindly happy that I thought he was easy to manipulate. I married him thinking I could do as I pleased.
The level of John's disappointment upon hearing this was profound. Naturally, I was furious. How terrible, unforgivable. I felt anger towards Emily, but also frustration with myself for having been so happy about their marriage without knowing the truth. My concern now was for Anna. How could we possibly tell a 7-year-old girl that John wasn't her father? After discovering the truth, John and I agonized over how to break the news to Anna. Can such a small child handle this truth? I couldn't bring myself to simply tell the truth. Since it was certain that Anna would be deeply hurt, I wanted to handle the matter with great care. However, John was in torment. If he wasn't her real father, then she had another father out there. It seems he can't help but wonder if it's okay to keep silent about it.
She might want to know the truth someday.
After days of discussion, we decided not to tell her for the time being. There had to be a right way to do it, and it wasn't something to be rushed. Moreover, the motive behind Emily's horrific actions was revealed. She had become obsessed with a nightclub, pouring money into it. When a favored staff member urged her to spend more, Emily eventually tapped into John's bank account. Fearing discovery, she took preemptive action to silence him by locking him in an underfloor storage space. Sobbing uncontrollably, Emily confessed,
I wanted to contribute more to the club. I thought it would be convenient if my husband disappeared, even better if it meant I could collect the insurance money and visit the club more often.
Hearing that she still desired to meet the nightclub staff, I was speechless. It was a marriage initially motivated by money. It's clear that there was no love involved. But is it solely Emily's fault that her sense of ethics shattered to this extent? Or does some of the blame lie with the club staff she encountered? I can't say for sure. There were others beside myself who were appalled by what Emily said. These were Emily's own mother and sister. Initially, Emily's family had intended to welcome her back after she atoned. But upon hearing her testimony, they declared a complete severance of ties. Eventually, Emily, having been definitively sentenced, was sent to prison. Now completely estranged from her family, there was no one left to send her care packages behind bars. She faced a profoundly lonely life ahead. Now, knowing Anna wasn't biologically related raised new concerns for me. I fear that John might grow to dislike Anna because she isn't his real daughter. The shock hit me hard too. It's incredibly sad to realize she isn't my biological granddaughter. Yet, memories of delightful times with sweet Anna keep flashing through my mind. I anxiously awaited John's response.
For 7 years, I've raised Anna without a doubt. More than fearing I might never wake up while I was trapped, I feared not being able to protect Anna. I intend to continue raising her as my precious daughter.
John declared in a calm but resolute voice. I felt a wave of relief. 10 years have passed since that incident. Afterward, John, Anna, and I began living together. That means we've been living as a trio for 10 years. Looking back, it seems like it all went by in a flash, feeling more like just 2 or 3 years rather than a decade. While John and I haven't changed much as adults, it's Anna's growth that truly marks the passage of time. Both were deeply scarred physically and emotionally because of Emily's actions. However, they gradually recovered, fueled by the loving meals I prepared. John has since expressed no interest in remarrying. A perfectly understandable sentiment. Instead, he poured his efforts into his work, which led to a promotion. Thankfully, this has allowed all of us living together to enjoy a more prosperous life. Apart from his luck with women, John has really turned out to be a fine son. Now, Anna is a beautiful 17-year-old high school student. Recently, she brought home her first boyfriend. It's still very much a childlike relationship, but watching them study together is endearing.
To think she chose such a scrawny boy with glasses.
John grumbled, but I really felt like holding up a mirror to him. Because that earnest, slightly timid boy is a spitting image of John when he was younger. Blood ties or not, Anna is undoubtedly John's daughter. Our family of 3 lives happily today. I look forward to continuing this joyful life together with John and